Welcome back. Joining us now, we have two guests who played a very big part in this weekend's Bartenders Ball. We have John Baker, he's the owner of Gaffney's, and also on the executive board of the Bartenders Ball. And then Maggie Fronk, welcome, is the executive director for Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Services of Saratoga County, or DVRC. And that organization is this year's recipient of the money raised at the Bartenders Ball. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you very much.
So I wasn't able to attend myself, but I have seen many pictures on Facebook. It looks like it was a fun event. John, can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, we had a sellout crowd of 725 people this year. I think it's our largest crowd in 17 years. So, and we had a great Gatsby theme, great music with the audio stars, and we really couldn't have been happier with all the attendees, and everybody had a great time.
So we had a lot of flapper dresses. That's the costume that I was sort of seeing.
Yeah, it was great. I think this year people really got into it more than ever, actually. And yeah, all the guys and girls are dressed in their flapper attire, and it was exciting.
Now, it was at the City Center again, which I guess, as we were talking about, is the only venue large enough to hold that number of people really right in this area.
Yeah, well, we max out around that 700 mark every year, so that's the only place in town to hold an event that large.
So it is a popular event, and you said there were various different locations where there's some entertainment going on as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the Audio Stars play in the main ballroom, and then the Lions Club have a casino night, so it's kind of a joint venture, and people can go gamble and have some fun in there. And we have another group, Holly and Evan, that plays in the casino area, and people go back and forth, and it makes it really a lot of fun, and people can do a lot of different activities.
And then when people do pay their ticket price, the money that's raised goes toward DVRC this year and next year as well. You'll be the recipient. How much money was raised? Do we know yet?
Around $35,000. We don't know the exact total yet, but right around $35,000.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so we're going to talk now just a little bit about where the money is going. You said this is more of a brick and mortar type of funding for this. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Historically, the Bartenders Ball, when it has helped DVRC, has helped our emergency shelter, which assists over 100 women and children a year to be safe. And so some of the money is going toward the shelter, bricks and mortar needs at the shelter, renovations and repairs, but also for some of our equipment needs for program spaces so that we can help families who aren't in shelter.
Now, you said about 100 women a year are able to take advantage of this shelter, and you're always reaching out and trying to attract more. Can you talk about the services that are offered through the shelter?
Sure. Well, shelter is one of the services at Domestic Violence Rape Crisis, but we also assist a lot of people who don't come into shelter. So we have a full range of services, from crisis intervention, 24-hour hotline, accompanying people to the hospital or police, to services like counseling and case management, helping them get their basic needs met, legal advocacy in all the courts throughout Saratoga County, support groups, services for youth who have been in families where there's abuse. And then we also do a lot of work throughout the county on prevention, because while we're always there to help victims become survivors, our real goal is to end relationship and sexual abuse in our county.
Can you talk a little bit about that education? What type of programs are offered?
Okay, we are in school districts throughout the county, delivering programs from elementary school right up through college age. We deliver programs for community groups, and then we also have some very innovative programs that, for example, in the Boston area, we have our Boston Area Community Allies, which is working with that community, members of the community, to have them become advocates for change, so that in that community we can decrease the incidences of relationship abuse.
We're going to narrow down just a little bit more, and when you are presenting, these programs and this education in the schools and various places, how are you able to prevent domestic violence? What are some of the tips, so to speak, for people?
One of the things is to let people know what relationship abuse is. I think a lot of times people think of domestic violence and they think about physical abuse, but there's also psychological control, emotional control, financial control. And so we broaden that so that people are able to identify earlier in a relationship that something doesn't feel right there, and to learn to trust their gut there. And then also, especially when we're working with youth, we talk about being an ally, because we all know that sometimes when we're involved in something, we're too close to see it. And so there's ways to be an ally. One is, if you're worried about a friend, say, I'm kind of concerned about what I'm seeing here and I really care about you. Can you go talk to someone? And then the other is if you see someone who's maybe even inadvertently acting abusive, to be a role model for that and say, hey, not cool. And so we talk with kids about that a lot, about how to be a bystander and say, that's not the way we want to be. And so we really work on changing norms that allow those kinds of relationship abuse.
So it must be rewarding to be in programs like that and maybe to get some reaction on, as you said, people that may not be aware of exactly what domestic violence is and what it encompasses, to finally enlighten them.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot of people who call our hotline and say, I don't know if I should be calling here because I've never been hit. And we want them to call way before they've been hit so that it doesn't get to that level. Because this is the second most common crime in our county. And so we want to end that.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you
for the services provided.
Thank you.
To see this interview again, you can go to our website, looktvonline.com.